conversation among three prominent practitioners, two of whom are institutional curators and one of whom, Theaster Gates, is an artist whose work always centers around a conversation with the institution. So that's what we'll be doing. In his work, Theaster acts as a problem solver, using performance, sculpture, site interventions, and micro-development. His work engages the spectrum of human experience from spiritual ecstasy to manual labor. And he's based in Chicago and Berlin. His work has recently been shown in the 2010 Whitney Biennial, and he's had solo exhibitions at the Milwaukee Art Museum, at the Pulitzer Museum of Art in St. Louis, and the Contemporary Art Museum in Houston. Naomi Beckwith is here. She'll be acting as moderator today. She's the associate curator at the Studio Museum in Harlem, and her particular concerns focus on conceptual practices in contemporary art. Prior to joining the museum, Naomi was a project coordinator for BAM Art at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. She was a Helena Rubinstein Critical Studies Fellow at the Whitney ISP. And she was also the Whitney Lauder Curatorial Fellow at the Institute of Contemporary Art in Philadelphia. Naomi is a recent grant recipient of the Andy Warhol Foundation for Visual Arts. She's a guest blogger for Art 21. She sits on the board of the Laundromat Project, and she's curated and co-curated several exhibitions at the ICA in Philadelphia, and at Cucifritos in New York, Artist Space, and at the Studio Museum, where she manages the Artist in Residence program. And we also have Franklin Sirmans with us today. He's the Terry and Michael Smook Department Head and Curator of Contemporary Art at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. From 2006 to 2010, he was the Curator of Modern and Contemporary at the Menil Collection in Houston. And there he organized several exhibitions, including Neo-Hoodoo, Art for a Forgotten Faith, Maurizio Catalan, Steve Wolfe on Paper, and Contemporary Conversations, John Chamberlain. Please join me in welcoming our three speakers. Thank you.
And thank you, Tina, for that introduction. It's very exciting for me to be here. And an estimable company with these two wonderfully dressed gentlemen, of course, incredibly talented and intelligent gentlemen to boot. So we thought today that we would structure this kind of as a conversation between ourselves, with a bit of a leading presentation with Theaster to introduce you to his work and some of his ideas and thoughts. And then we would really open it up to a conversation with you all as a crowd. And so I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts, comments, and questions. With that, I'll turn it over to Theaster.
All right, hey everybody.
Yay.
Hey. So I decided that I would, instead of just going through projects, I would try to frame a little bit how I think about how I make. Because I think that there are ways in which maybe artists, you know, if you're a painter, you're good, you paint. If you're a, you know, wood sculptor, you wood sculpt. But if you do things that kind of move around a bit, like fortunately sometime in the late 80s they came up with a word called mixed media, so that allowed for a person to be less medium specific. But then if you jump around from, like, you know, one disciplinary plane to another, one professional plane to another, it becomes hard to understand why all the moves, that it starts to look disjunctive. And so I thought, why don't I just kind of help by talking about one set of materials and walking you through a set of things that you kind of get to know the life cycle of things. A lot of the work that I make is about materials that get redeemed. And I use the word redeemed because I want them not to just be upcycled in some way that they go out and live in the world in a way better than the way they were built, but that they would have more value. That there's something about, you know, it's like a Joseph Boys moment, something about me touching them, you know, just like rubbing on them, putting them back, spotlighting them, that creates redemption. All right. In 2008, nobody would really show my work. So I decided that I would have a show for myself. So I rented a space in this beautiful little gallery in Pilsen and took these wooden boards that were at this recycle place that I got for 10 cents a board. I got 2,000 of them. and I made my first temple. The temple got built on, this one over here. It was this cute little structure, this nice little corridor. I was like, oh my gosh, this feels holy. Somebody got to sing in it, right? So I built the structure, and then the structure said to me, Theaster, I need some monks. So I invented a group called the Black Monks of Mississippi. Seems pretty straightforward. While we were in the space, there was some other things, like I put on the front chanting hours, Monday through Thursday, this time, and this time. People came. People came with yoga mats. People came with lotus positions. It was great. It was like people came and they wanted to chant. And so we chanted. And, my mama really wanted me to be a preacher. So this was like, come to the chant. And then it got confusing to me pretty quickly, so I just started inviting people to come, hang out, and let's talk about what it means to chant together with no religious center. That we would just catfish, collard greens, catfish, collard greens. Okay, so the objects led me from the construction of a formal structure that one could situate in art and historical discourse as Juddian, Andrean, minimal, right? But I needed the minimal structure to function because I'm a potter. I'm sorry, I'm a potter. I needed the thing to function, right? So it wasn't enough to just have the object in the space. I'm sorry I'm screaming at y'all, but I get excited. It wasn't enough to have the object sit in the space. I really wanted to. All right, so that was 2008. In 2008, some of the folk from the Museum of Contemporary Art came to my self-done show that I paid for myself, and they say, God, the potter's no longer making clay things. Look at this beautiful wooden thing. Now it could fit in a museum. Theaster's no longer a potter, he's now an installation artist. And boom. Potter, installation artist. I'm a potter, performer, installation artist so far. When I got to the space, I thought, I don't want to build a temple inside of the museum. I want to convert the museum into a temple. Pretty straightforward move. But now we got the Black Monks of Mississippi. We've had 7 choir rehearsals. We got a following. So now we got a temple and some monks. It's a done deal. So as much as I was able to then transform this space into this other thing, performance, so when the space was empty, the choir stand was empty, the mics were on. It was like this kind of position of people waiting. Like if you went to a church on a Tuesday night and Bible classes on Wednesday night and the choir rehearsals on Friday night. And it's like when you're in an empty church, something's missing. And I wanted to use the space to pronounce that something was missing and then fill it. But I'm only going to fill it at a certain time. And if you want to be filled with it, you got to come at that time. So we found ourselves with these great moments where hundreds of people would come to the Museum of Contemporary Art, and instead of just experiencing a Juddian exhibition of minimal works, they were delivered. I delivered them. I delivered something to them. We cried. We shouted. People moaned. It was religious. It was very uncomfortable for agnostics and atheists because they didn't know what was overcoming them. The Lord had come down, and I added preacher, charismatic to the set of things that I was, and there I was. Attempting to redeem not only these materials, not only the place where these materials had come from. I was interested in personal redemption.
Yes, Lord. Yes.
I was interested in the redemption of my people.
Yes.
And so they were. From an artist who was a nobody to an emerging artist.